Jamie Ray with Jamie Ray Vintage. Today's DIY, we're going to be building a box for our Christmas tree, so that way it hides our stand and alleviates the need for having a skirt. I'm using some scrap lumber left over from our recent build, but you can buy yours at the store and make one just like it. You're going to start off by needing two 2x6x8s that you're going to cut down to size based off of your tree size. You're going to need one 4x4. And then you're going to need some trim molding. This is leftover scrap that we have from our recent build, but any trim molding that you can get at your store will work. To put our box together, we're going to be using our air compressed staple gun, 1 3/4 inch staples, and our wood glue. So the first thing you're going to do is measure your base for your Christmas tree and figure out how big your box needs to be. I went ahead and used my wood that we had, and it wound up being 22 1/4 inches, and that's just enough to fit my base in. I'm using 8 boards, all with the exact same length. Okay, so I'm going to take my boards and get them into the shape that I want. I've got 2 boards inside and 2 boards going along the outside. I'm going to paste a bead of glue on all the seams and then staple all the seams together. Okay, so I've got my glue on here. I'm going to spread this out and connect my first joint. I'm just going to use my 4x4 as a guide to make sure I've got a 90-degree angle. Okay, we've got our first joint, and I'm going to go ahead and do the other side and put a bar across on the other end. Okay, so we've got our first square done. It might feel a little wonky, but mostly those staples are there just to hold the glue together. We're gonna reinforce it from the inside once we get it all built. So I'm gonna do one more box, so that way it's twice as high as it is now, and then I'll show you how to reinforce the insides. So I've got 8 pieces. They're cut at 10 inches long, and they're gonna go on the inside of my box to hold my 2 tiers together, and I'm just gonna put a little bit of glue on each end. So my supports are going to go in each corner like this, and I'm going to staple along with the grain of the wood, and I'm going to put 2 staples in each board, so there'll be 4 up each side. So now that I've got my corners all secured, this box is actually getting pretty sturdy. So I'm going to be trimming out my top, and I'm just taking and measuring out my pieces to the right length to cut. I'm going to do 2 this length. So this second cut's going to need to go just a little bit further, so that way it's long enough for my other board here to butt up. So I could do just 45-degree angles, but this isn't that fancy of a box. So I'm just going to make sure that this piece comes all the way to the end there. And then I'm going to mark this piece back here so it allows for the trim on this side. So I measured this side of my box, and I'm going to do the 2 ends of trim first, and this is the exact length of this board. So I'm going to go ahead and put a bead of glue across the top, and then staple it in place. Comes in handy if you've got a helper. They can hold the other side while you staple. Okay, so we've got our next piece that we're going to measure for. You're going to make sure that that's all the way to the end, and then make a mark, and then I will cut 2 pieces at this length. Okay, so we're going to add our last 2 pieces of trim, putting a bead of glue across it, and stapling along the top. Okay, so the construction of our box is all finished. we're gonna be ready to sand and paint. I'm gonna use my rotary sander with 80 grit and then 220 to smooth it out, and then I'll show you how I finish it. Now that we've got it all sanded smooth, I could putty up the holes, but I kind of want it to look like an old crate, so I'm just gonna leave all the imperfections in there, and I'm gonna go ahead and stain it. I'm using Minwax Dark Walnut Stain. Normally I would just use a lint-free rag, but since we're going super chippy and distressed, I'm just gonna use paper towels and throw them away when I'm done. I'm gonna do a stain all over, and then once that's dry, we'll seal it and we'll be ready for paint. Alright, so our stain and our poly are dry and I'm ready to add my paint. I'm going to be using Fairy Chalk, Mother and Ivory, and it's going to take me a couple of coats to get the coverage that I want. Alright, we're ready to distress. I've got my rotary sandpaper, 120 grit, and I'm ready to make this look chippy and old. Okay, so now we're ready to seal. I'm going to be using my water-based polyurethane to go over my Fairy Chalk, Mother and Ivory. I'll do about 2 coats. You need to wait about 2 hours in between to allow for dry time, and then we'll be ready to put our Christmas tree on. If you'd like to buy Fairy Chalk, Mother paint, be sure to go to JamiRayVintage.com. Our Christmas tree box is all done and I decorated my tree. We're ready for the holidays. Be sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to Jami Ray Vintage for more DIY.